Oh, day one of the Splurge Challenge. Hello, Pedro, JD, Sasha, Brian, who's no longer lurking, Safe, that's Naif, I think, isn't it? Bram, Chimp, Paul, and Mike. And please feel free to say hi. And also, Shahar, hello. And ask any questions you like. Bear in mind that while I am meant to be going as fast as possible, obviously, 100% focused on speed, because I'm live streaming and answering questions and stuff, I will be going slower than the people who are doing the challenge is supposed to. Ingo, hi. Andrew, Frank. Yes, Pedro, what a time to be alive indeed. I was just saying that to my wife, Sally, yesterday. Kenneth. Scott. Good to see you all. Where are you all? Where are you all in the world? Why don't you post that in the comments? Let's see where you are. I'm in Sydney, obviously. Maybe not so obviously for everyone. And we're just going into flu season here, which is great. Really good timing. Thanks. Right. So here you will see my 5 players template, and this is the you'll see there's 6 parts here, but this is because this is to do with the DFAM. Keeping the DFAM in sync. Filippo Michele Gagung. So who have we got? Jess. Good to see you. So we've got London, UK, North Carolina, Florida right now. Sounds like you might be stuck in Florida. I suppose there are worse places. New York, Hampshire, Belgium, Sweden, Bulgaria, Idaho, Vienna, Switzerland, Ireland. Hello, Graham. California and Israel. Portugal. We've got nobody representing from Asia as yet, but we'll see. Maybe somebody will come in. Belgium. Fantastic. Okay. So, as you can see, I've got my 5 players template here. I've just realised I can't use this 808 because it's rolling cloud and it keeps on forgetting that I have signed in. And I tried to sign in just before, which explains why I was a bit late. So I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to use the DFAM for a percussion and just these 4. That's fine. So it's just these 3. And bear in mind with the frequency range template that we talk about, it's just a starting point. It's just a way of thinking about it. It goes in all sorts of directions. We've got to allow ourselves to, we've got to create the conditions where things happen kind of easily, but at the same time allow ourselves to do other things if that's what happens. So Morteza, hi, and Erland, and that's one name. I've got my real name isn't Monday. It's Mukhopadhyay because I'm half Bengali. But I decided to change I haven't actually changed my name, but change the artist name as I didn't think it would be that easy to say. Anyway, I'm going to stop blathering and start making music. So I don't always, but I often start with something in Omnisphere, just because it's kind of like that. It kind of has, the sounds, the starting presets have a lot in them. It's almost like using samples, is that kind of thing. So it makes it easy to start. Well, how about that? Right. What I usually do, and you don't have to do this, but it's just what I do, is I usually start, because I'm not writing in a particular tempo. The Mike Monday genre isn't confined by silly little things like tempo. No, it's just, I mean, I spent a large portion of my career writing between like 118 and 128, and I had a break of making music for 8 years, and when I came back to making music, I was like, I don't want this tempo nonsense to bind me anymore. So that's not one of the things I worry about. I write, I mean, I've literally splurged stuff from literally 250 BPMs, which is a kind of a weird tempo because it's every tempo under it, halved, if you like, all the way down to 50, which is another weird tempo because it's every tempo above it, halved. I guess every tempo is like that, but there's something about the middle tempos, as I think of them now, where it's like you tend to be stuck in that tempo. I find it anyway. So I do often, yeah. And so what I do is I start with a sound, just any old sound, and then I play a part, and that part suggests a tempo. Okay, so that's how I do it. That's not a rule. It's not something you have to do while splurging. It's just what I do. Harry, hello. David, first timer. Don't know what tempo that was. Let's try playing along to that. Really good to dance to, Mike. Nice one. So after saying that I'm not constrained to a particular tempo, I decide to start at 123. So, okay. Hey Ross, good to see you. Okay, that's what I'm going to do there. Yeah, it's probably a good idea to pick one for a track. Right, let's start there. And remember, zero focus on quality, which is a very unusual direction. That is an absolute, that's almost like the rule of the splurge. It's a tricky one to follow at all times. So you will definitely, over the coming days, because I'm going to do this every day for the next 10 days, you will definitely see me sometimes not following that rule. Not because I'm meaning to not follow that rule, just because it's just a natural urge we obviously often have. We want to do the best music we can. But that's one of the reasons for having the rule, because what it does is it forces you to maintain awareness of what you are doing in the process. Because if I say to you, you're not allowed to focus on quality, then you've got to build the ability to know that when you're focusing on quality. Because quality is obviously something that we want from our music, without a shadow of a doubt. This isn't about releasing loads of crap or spamming Beatport with hundreds of same old tracks or anything like that. This is actually about how do we create the best quality we can, and particularly at this stage of the process, and in fact to a certain extent at every stage of the process, when we are in the process, particularly solo producers, when we are in the process, we are not the best judges of quality. Okay, if you're just at the start of the Idea Explosion program, then you will not. I haven't talked about this properly yet, but there are two different ways of interacting with the process, and you can't do both at the same time. It's like having the accelerator and the brake pedal on at the same time. You just end up going around in circles. Okay, so this direction, zero focus on quality, isn't because I don't want you to make quality. It's because I do want you to make quality. And from my many years of making music, and also many years of coaching people who are making music now, I've realized that this is a huge problem, this over-focus on quality at the beginning. Okay, so hello Dodo and Sasha. Hello, I think we spoke yesterday, didn't we, on a call? I think that was you anyway, who knows. How long does each splurge session last? It can be anything from 5 minutes to, I don't tend to, I mean, it's going to be different on these live streams because I'm answering questions. So it can be anything from 5 minutes. Sometimes I've done splurge sessions which are 2 minutes long to, I don't go much over half an hour when I'm on my own, because I tend to find I start to focus on quality quite a bit, and I don't go as far as I could. There is an exception, however. Sometimes what happens is you'll be splurging and you'll get into flow. You'll get into like a flow state, and this is another benefit of doing it, is that it happens more often when you are able to let go of that internal editor. Is you'll get into flow, and what you'll find is you just end up making a track. You're in it. Yeah, I doubt highly that this will happen to me while I am live streaming, because I'm speaking to you and it's bringing me out and in and out of the process. But I've actually splurged entire tracks. I came back to making music in, when was it? June 2018, and I think I probably in that time splurged in their entirety about probably 10 to 15 tracks. Some are good, some are bad, some aren't so good. And in fact, one of them was on my the first album that I released after I came back to making music. The last track on my album, called Coda, available on all good record stores, digital ones obviously, was splurge from beginning to end, just went like that. And that's an exception. But usually when I splurge out a whole track, it's going to take me a couple of hours or something, and they tend to be the more simpler ones. So yeah. But essentially, how long it lasts, it depends. How long is a piece of string? I mean, sometimes if I've got a really short amount of time, it has to last that length of time. So that's how long it lasts. It doesn't matter if there's one part in there or if there's 10. At the end of the day, these are just starting points. These are just ideas that you can choose to take forward or not in the future. Pedro's asking, did I quantize and edit the notes after a recording? No, I didn't. I try not to quantize, and sometimes it gets me in trouble. And I'm actually practicing the piano like a crazy person every day. I'm learning a Mozart sonata by heart at the moment, in order to be able to play things in without quantizing them. I mean, with a part like this, I really don't need to quantize at all. And the reason I don't want to quantize is it kind of tends to, for the kind of music that I want to make, for the style I am attempting to, that I'm moving towards, it can make things sound too robotic, because there are some robotic elements, right? And I want the robotic elements kind of juxtaposed with the live elements. But obviously, if you've got live elements, you've got to be able to play vaguely in time and not be a complete, which is what I tend to be at the moment. So yeah, I attempt not to quantize, and I get a bit of feel, a bit of humanity in there, and that isn't relevant for all types of music. It's just me. But even if I was making like techno or something, I probably wouldn't bother even quantizing these unless they were totally like that. So I'm going to move over to the wonderful machine over here. And yes, so turn you off. Now, actually, no, I won't turn you off. Yeah, okay. Okay. So I'm just going to turn you down a bit. And I don't think I'm going to have a kick drum in this like that. So this thing that I'm using here, the DFAM, is like literally one of the most favourite bits of kit I've ever bought. See if I can get a bit of noise going on. Okay, I'll do. Let's go. Okay. Yeah, it's my goal eventually at some point to be able to not quantize anything. I mean, obviously that is quantized by its very nature. I suppose I could do some kind of which mean it would unquantize it, but that just seems like unnecessarily complicated. I just saw the level peaking here a bit on the output, so I'm just turning it down, which is probably what you're wondering what I'm doing. Right, okay, let's give this a go. The multi-clock. Okay, yeah. So the can you see over there? Hang on. Right, you see this machine here with the screen? That's the hardware, and the multi-clock here is a plugin, and this sends Android speak to that and tells it what speed I'm going here, and that's then connected to this. It's sending it's connected to this by this lead here, and it's sending I'm not sure what it's sending. What is it sending? It's sending a beep beep beep, like a kind of thing, I think. Actually, I should probably check that out. I'm not sure what it's sending. Anyway, it's sending something to this, and it's telling it what speed it's going. And the great thing about the multi-clock is that you can. So I'll just show you actually. It keeps analog outboard stuff in time very, very, very well. It's as solid as a rock, and the other thing is that you can sort out latency issues, which is quite funny because I totally forgot you could for a while, and on a few previous live streams that I did, I was I forgot that, and I just dealt with it. But anyway, listen. So okay, so that's exactly in time, and I've got this knob on minus 48.8, but if I actually put it to, so you can hear there, it's out, yeah, so you can get it, yeah. And the other thing you can do is if you turn the other knob, you can make it swing, baby, and we do like a little bit of swing. So if I turn this down, so it was on 31, so if it turned down to 0, hang on, got to advance it, right, there we go. In fact, probably better too. Okay, so that's straight, yeah, and if I turn this up, I can swing it. Bit of wiggle, so that's on 100%, 99% swinging, which is probably a little too much of the shaking of the rear end for me, so I'm going to leave it on the old, let's go for 38, how about that, a bit of the old 38. So yeah, that's how that works. But there's all sorts of different ways you can do it. You know, I could. What I've also got this thing over here, the Arturia, what's it called? Anyway, thing, and I could sync that to that and all kinds of things. This is the simplest way of doing it at the moment. One thing I do like to do actually is be able to control the tempo with this, which involves a different configuration. But that multi-clock is great because it's very kind of solid. Anyway, I'm going to stop blathering on about the multi-clock. Beat step, there you go. Thanks, Ross. So, To be honest, I haven't really used that very much since getting it. I want to use it for this, but yeah, it's just taken too long to get my head around so far. But anyway, oh yes, where do we want to start? Down like this. Okay. One thing I always forget to do with this is just get a section of this playing. That's not working. A section of this playing. Schoolboy Error by Mike Monday. In public. How embarrassing. So the thing I often forget to do, because I get so excited about, you should tweak like that. Come on, let's have it. I get a bit too excited too fast. Is I often forget just to have some sections where it's just doing one thing, which makes it hard if you want to pull out bits to edit. So I've got to remember that at this stage. Okay. Erland is saying, I'm finding it hard to choose my band. Don't worry about it. Please. It doesn't matter. This isn't, so this is a really good thing for you to understand, Erland. Is that the only way you're going to know if you've made the right, and there isn't a right, but a choice that you want to make, is by using it. Right? You can't sit there and go, oh, I know. Yes, I'm definite. This is the perfect template. That's just not possible, right? The only way, and the same is true of making music, the only way you're going to know if it's any good is by making it, right? The only way you're going to know if your template is working for you is by choosing something and going with it. So you might as well just go with your best guess for now, and then you can alter it if you want. Just tweak it, each day if you want, as long as you keep the general kind of rules, the general frame around it. You can't think your way into success. You can't. You might be able to if you're a university professor, which maybe you are, I don't know. But in a field like making music, you've got to do your way into success. You've got to create your way into success. You've got to use the stuff. You can't just sit there and go, somebody please, something happened, something needs to come to me, and then I will know, and I will be certain that everything I have chosen is correct. Do you know what I mean? You'd just be waiting for a very long time, which is probably what you're doing, right? So just leave that behind, choose 4 parts, 4 parts and some rhythm, get on with it. Okay. Right, take 2. Don't tweak. Right, that'll do as a little thing. Now, I tried to figure this out last night, and I didn't. I couldn't work it out in the time I had. So now I have to move this over, which is very boring. I'm sure there's a way of sorting it out, which I haven't figured out yet. Because obviously, because this is the multi-clock has moved the DFAM forward, it's now recording forward. So in order to get it playing back in time, I need to move it back. And I did try the delay thing in Logic, but that didn't seem to do it. I bet you there's a way of doing it. Anyway. Yes, the over tweak thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very guilty of over tweaking on this thing. Shows my lack of experience with it, I think. Anyway, so let's try a bit of piano. Just going to change that one bit there. What I like to do myself, right, and you know, I know a lot of people here don't play things, yeah, and it's absolutely fine. This isn't a part of splurge. You don't have to play things to be able to splurge. It's just how I do it, because it's one of the, I was going to say skills. It's not a highly developed skill, but it's not. It's, you know, I've got this ability to play the keyboard because I started playing. You know, my mum forced me to start playing the piano from the age of 7. So I've got this ability to at least vaguely play the piano. And so I use it in splurging. What I like to do myself is, as far as possible, play things. And if it sounds okay, kind of leave as much as possible as is. Because the purpose really of the splurge is for you to have starting points. I don't know whether you've seen the bit where I talk about you're like a potter throwing a bit of clay onto the, what's it called? Circle thing that goes around. Wheel. That's right. So yeah, and it's essentially all you're really doing. So you don't need to make it good, which is, in fact, I might just leave that, in fact, because I don't think it's that bad, that bit there. But now I've got a really good question from Wolfie. Let me just get some water because I've got a dry mouth. Obviously, the nose. So Wolfie's asking, after you've done a splurge, would you say it's not okay to put on your editor hat and keep working and tweaking the track in the same session? Right, so in general, yeah, I wouldn't do that. Unless it's like when you're in flow, for instance, when it's just happening, it's just kind of coming out of you, and it's a different state. Yeah, you haven't really got your editor hat on. You're not. It's not. You're not thinking. You're in the process, right? So, what I'm about to say, it does not include that particular state. Yeah. And if you haven't experienced flow yet, keep making music, keep making lots of music, and you will at some point. And it's a peak experience. It's like one of those. It's kind of, I think, what a lot of people are searching for when they're making music, because it's a very addictive experience as well. So I'm not including that experience in this. But if you're not in flow, if you're kind of having to, if you're struggling, you're not sure what to do or anything like that, then I would definitely do a splurge and export it or record it or whatever you have to do, and then come back to it later, because you're in you're not actually in a very good state unless you're in flow. You're not in the best position to edit it. And you'll necessarily, just by the fact of where you are in the process, and this is particularly for solo producers, it's different when you're in the room with someone else, or if you solo produce. I mean, if you're collaborating with somebody remotely, it's basically the same thing as a solo producer, right? But if you're in the room with someone else, it's kind of different, because you've got the two people. You've got the person who's at the controls, and you've got the person who isn't, if that's how you do it, right? And so the person who isn't at the controls can remain in this kind of as the creator, and the person who's at the controls is necessarily like can be the editor. So I would thoroughly recommend. I mean, the other benefit of doing it in the way that I'm talking about is you may well be working on something that isn't worth working on, yeah, or that isn't going to go anywhere, and so in other words, the amount of time you spend after splurging initial idea trying to make something work, yeah, could well be wasted time. You just make another idea. You could make 10 ideas in that time, and a couple of those could be way more exciting. Yeah, so I mean, certainly for the splurge challenge, try, unless you're in flow, just doing splurge and exporting. Okay. Right. So. No, I'm going to change that. See what I'll do. Another thing that I've got to get into the habit of is doing a little improvisation every day on the piano, because I'm not anywhere near where I want to be. Okay. So can you hear here that we've got a few things? Now, this isn't something to think about in a splurge, because the idea is that you set up the conditions and you splurge without intention. Yeah. But I might as well use these live streams to talk about musical things as well, right? So please don't bring the kind of things I'm about. Yeah, JD, I think Dry was saying that he prefers playing over clicking with the mouse. Yeah. So anyway, we've got a little bit of a tete-a-tete going on in the comments. At the end of the day, there are lots of different ways people do different things, and it's all good. Yeah. So what was I talking about? Yeah. So what I'm about to say is a kind of musical thing. Please don't take these kinds of things into splurge and stop you just from making stuff. Yeah. The idea of the splurge is that there is zero intention. You just do what comes out. Okay. So Terry, hello. How dare you learn to program your Behringer FCB 1010 instead of watching my ugly mug make terrible music? How could you? What a terrible decision. Okay, so welcome Terry, good to see you on here. So, right, musical things. So what you can hear here is that, for one thing, you can kind of hear a structure happening here in this piano, yeah. Already, just from me playing. Yeah, so this bit kind of sounds like some kind of a little break to me, a little kind of intro, yeah? And we've got a little motif going on. Now it's just 3 notes, major scale, C, D, E. Very, very, very basic, right? But that is the beginnings of what I would call a thing, okay? And that's why when I was playing this, I started repeating it all over the place, because I was like, okay, that's a little motif that I can develop in other ways, okay? And you can hear here, I'll play it through, but here, after a bit of faffing around, yeah, I kind of land on something. And this, to me, here, sounds like it could start to be the beginnings of some kind of a chord progression, which could go over the very simple. I mean, that's very, very obvious, right? And very like, yeah. But it's how it's kind of what I'm listening for, and you won't have got to the listening session yet unless you've already been through the program. It's one of the things I'm listening for when I'm going through the listening session is a thing, yeah. But this kind of a thing is, because it's so simple. There you go, got that wrong. Anyway, get the idea, yeah? Because then, you know, that can go, yeah? And then you tie it all together. Okay. Anyway, so I'm just going to play it through, so you can hear here is where it kicks into something, yeah? So, but again, just to reiterate, when you are splurging, do not be thinking about this kind of stuff. Just be splurging. I'm just telling you the kind of things to be looking for when you're listening for the splurging. Yeah. What I might do actually is put that there. So that's where it kind of starts, if you like. Get that chord wrong, don't I? Right. So you'll notice there, I've got a mistake going on there, but I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to leave it because I can hear the idea. I can hear the idea. Yeah. Already, and I can hear past the mistakes. Yeah. So the purpose of the splurge is not to get it right. The purpose of the splurge is to get good ideas. And if you found a good idea and it's not eclipsed by the mistake, what's the problem? Yeah. I mean, when I say the purpose of the splurge is to find good ideas, that's not the only purpose of the splurge. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it at that right now. For this splurge, I will actually, because I've got a bit of time, actually do another one. If you want to stick around, you don't have to. And yes, dry dessert makes a good point. The more viewers who click like, the more YouTube will recommend this to other people who could benefit. So please go ahead and click like. And I've kept this public. What's what we call this? Ideas are everywhere. Okay, so what was it? A C major, wasn't it? C, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And see what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put that there like that. Great. Had a wonderful conversation here about pineapple juice flavoured Behringer, or is it Behringer? I don't know how to say it. Synths. So, you know, some serious conversation going on here. Right. I'm just gonna... Hello, Sean, and hello, Christoph. So let's just bounce this little sucker out, and it will tell me that I've already got it, but I haven't, so it doesn't matter. All right, so I'm going to do another splurge in this session because I might as well. I won't always, but basically let's just talk about what's going to happen over the next 10 days. I was attempting to record a video showing my one of my team how to schedule new streams in YouTube, and then YouTube Studio decided to stop working on me and like hang. So there are still only four live streams scheduled, including this one, because YouTube just was being annoying, and it wasn't the internet. I did check that, and so you will only see 4 in there at the moment. But I'm going to today and make sure that the rest are scheduled. All of them will be at the same time as the one that started now, so 48 minutes before when I'm speaking at this point, apart from the penultimate day, which I have to do later in the day because I've got a mastermind group that I'm coaching at this time. But basically, I will be running through each of the splurges in the Idea Explosion challenge. I will be actually, doing the challenge like that. If I was doing this on my own without live streaming in this amount of time, I would have wanted personally to have done 3 at least, maybe 4 at this stage in the process. Probably 3. Let's be honest. So yeah, that's kind of the speed at which I'm going. Now, please don't judge what you're doing based on what I do. We're all in different situations and at different levels, in different, you have skills that I don't have. I have skills that you don't have. I've been doing this a certain amount of time. You've been doing other things a certain amount of time. So, don't think that everything that I am doing is what you must be doing. So, sometimes people go, yeah, but you can play. So, how do you splurge without being able to play? And that's not splurging. There were absolutely, there were hundreds and hundreds of people who don't play the keyboard, who, the piano or anything, who are splurging absolutely fine. There are people who are using a mouse to make music who are splurging without any problems at all. So that's not a requirement. Nothing is a requirement of splurging. So when you're watching me, for sure, if you get some value out of actually what I'm doing, musically, or how I'm doing things musically, that's absolutely fine. But in terms of the actual splurge, the most important bit is the zero focus on quality area. Yeah, I'm my number one thing is to, first of all, when I say my number one thing, that the first thing that whenever I coach anyone is to get their creative process healthy. I think people really need to focus on having a healthy creative process. And what that means, I kind of view it a little bit like let's use a metaphor in this situation. So I view it a little bit like a lake, a mountain lake. Yeah. If a naughty little beaver comes along and dams the lake, and then they decide to leave, and then that lake goes stagnant, and mosquitoes and stuff come in, then that is an unhealthy lake. Things die. I'm not actually, I don't know enough about nature to know if that's true, but let's just pretend it is, right? And it kind of dries up, and it's like, what you want to do is you want to remove that naughty little beaver's dam and get the water flowing through, so it's constantly, there's movement happening. There are fish going through, the salmon flying through the air, glistening in the sunlight. Taking this metaphor a little far, and this is part of what the splurge is about. Okay, so JD, yes, this is public. This by the way, I've decided to set these live streams as public. So yeah, please do like, and obviously the course, the program isn't public, but I decided to set the live streams as that. And hey, Celeste, can't watch you live now because it's too late. Just a message to tell you I'll keep on making videos. You're awesome. Thank you very much, Celeste. Yeah, well, I will leave the recording up for you, so that's absolutely no worries. Hello, Blair. It's 5th splurge of the day. That's brilliant. Yes, that's a good question. Alex is asking, how many splurges have people done today? So we've got Blair has done 5. Alex has done 3. Why don't you post and let us know how many you've done? I'm now on to my second. So, what shall I start with? I'll start with Omnisphere again. I'm going for safety at the moment, just because I'm, to be fair, a little bit nervous. So yeah, just to finish what I was saying, my number one goal with the people that I help, first of all, is to get their creative process healthy. And if you've not finished any music for any length of time, you do not have a healthy creative process. And when I mean finished, I don't mean released. Yeah, I mean finished, because you can't know what to release unless you finish it. Okay, it's kind of like I was talking to Erland about the template. You can't think your way into good music. You can't think your way into a template. You got to do it. And so you've got to actually get stuff done in order to be able to know if it's good enough to release. Yeah. So Dave's done one. Phil's done one beatbox. Christoph's done one. Brian's done none yet because he does his in the evening, but one or two likely. Brilliant. So JD's asking, is a splurge a real world or an acronym or something? I've never heard it before. So no, splurge is a word that people often use for shopping, where you just like, I'm going to go into splurge. I splurged and spent loads of money. It's kind of, the idea of it is letting go, I guess. And how did I come up with it for this? Well, where it actually came from originally was when I was making albums. So when I first made albums, what I would do is I would just spend a day, start out by just being a day, making about 15 ideas, starting points, without worrying too much. At that point, I was still quite focused on quality, but I would just like make a load of ideas, and then I would choose from those for the albums, and that was the beginning of the splurge. And I just said, I just kind of splurged them out, and that was where the word splurge came from. And funnily enough, I was listening to this Song Exploder podcast with Damon Albarn from the Gorillaz, talking about his creative process. By the way, Song Exploder podcast, thoroughly recommended. On the note of the what we were talking about the creator and the editor, the two different people, listen to the Nine Inch Nails one, where Trent Reznor talks about this. But anyway, I'm getting on a tangent. In terms of splurging, in terms of the word splurge, Damon Albarn used the word splurge. I just splurged it. So, and obviously he didn't learn that from me, but that's where it came from. So, ooh, crikey, steady on. What I'm going to do actually, I think I might change the setting on here so that it doesn't play. How do I do that? I can't remember now. Where is it? I'll do it later. Doesn't matter for now. I don't want to bore you with my inability to use any of my equipment. Okay. The name of the podcast is Song Exploder, and what it is a bunch of literally, well, not literally, but almost every kind of musician that you could imagine. So anything from TV music, film music composer, to death metal, to there's a Metallica one, electronic musicians, folk musicians, pop musicians, and basically talking about how they make their music. It's kind of about the creative process. And what I would thoroughly recommend I would recommend listening to the podcast series. I've listened to the whole thing 3 times. I mean, I'm a creative coach. I help people with their creative process. So for me, it's it's gold. But what I would recommend is listening to multiple different people in all kinds of different musics, even stuff that you don't like. In fact, particularly in stuff you don't like. So one of the ones that I got the most value from was the death metal one. Another one that I got a huge amount of value from was what are they called? Slipknot one. It actually gave me an idea for my own music. So, and I'm not saying anything bad about Slipknot, but it's just not my thing. But it's to actually listen to a lot of them, because what you start to notice, I think a mistake that a lot of people make is that they zero in on somebody that they love and they go, "Oh, how did they do that?" And then they try and reproduce what that person did. And it doesn't make sense because they don't have all of the information about that person. They don't know all of the things that went into them making that music. So with something like, there's a tendency to do this when you listen to things like Song Exploder. It's like, okay, there's one by John Hopkins. I'm going to listen to that, and I'm going to kind of take everything that he said and try and understand what he was trying to say, and then apply it to my creative process and ignore everything else. But the thing is, these videos have been edited massively to tell a particular story. Often artists don't remember what they have done as well as they think they do. Yeah, the self, and it's not just artists, it's human beings. Our memory is very, very shady, to say the least, unreliable, to say the least. So the narration of what they did is often quite different from the reality. I know this for a fact because I've worked with so many artists in coaching them, and sort of, it's very, there's a lot of difference. But where something like Song Exploder is valuable as a podcast is when you listen to all of it, or a lot of them, you start to notice patterns. And you start to notice a lot of people saying the same things about the creative process, okay? And that is what you need to pay attention to, more than any individual. Oh, I did this and I used this machine. I mean, not that they really sort of go into that, okay? So, right, back to, as they say, the acting. What am I doing? Schöners. How about Schöners? Oh. All right, this sounds like I want to go super fast. Does anybody want to pick it up? I'm just going to pick a random tempo. Let's go 160. Let's just start with an F major, right? Let's see what happens. Okay. The only thing I need to do is make sure that starts on the... I've got a terrible tendency to anticipate. Which is something I'm trying to sort out. So that's why I've changed that. No, it's that. I do have a love of arpeggios. Mainly because they just kind of are an easy way of... it's like a very quick way of having something to work with, if you like. That's what I love about them. I do like to use... I mean, arpeggio is almost like the simplest version of generative music, if you like. And I do like to use some of those elements, because then things happen which you haven't thought of, if you like. So Phil's asking about my thoughts about learning a new instrument in the best way possible. So I think the best way possible to learn an instrument is to have a decent teacher. And no, I mean, really do. I think it's worth it. And I mean, sometimes hard to find a decent teacher. But yeah, like a good teacher will give you things to do which you just about can't do. Yeah, and that's the benefit really of a teacher, is that they will kind of correct your mistakes immediately, quickly. Yeah, it's kind of the mistakes on how you're playing, and they will give you what you need when you need it. In the absence of that, I don't really know. I mean, I think that certainly in terms of all the instruments that I've played, I think there are two things you definitely need to do. One is scales. Yeah, so because if we think about it, every piece, certainly in Western music, is made up of scales. So that's not going to work, is it? So and that is something that you need to do. And the other thing is learning pieces. Yeah. I did for very many years do kind of a lot of the exercises, the Hanon and stuff like that. I'm not sure about the benefit of those if you're doing scales and learning pieces. But yeah, I'm sorry that that's not more useful than that at this stage. But that's what, I think if you can afford or you can get a teacher, that's probably the best thing to do. Right. Start with the DFM again. I usually have to put this in because it just loads up there. Why is it not? There we go. What am I going to do? Ooh, I say. Do I want to do that? Do I want to? Or do I want to go half time? Is this going to let me play this? Yeah, it is. So I'm not allowed to open that 808 because for some reason it has forgotten my thing. So I'm going to actually play the halftime thing on that. That's not. What can I do? Very, very annoying. I so rarely use anything else these days. So let's just use this. I can always change it later. Oh my goodness me. Boutique 808, let's try that. Alright. That's alright. I'll do. Okay. Now, just for time's sake, I'm going to quantize this because it's going to sound terrible with the DFM if I don't. So, Alex, you're asking about F major. Do you have a problem with F major? What's F major ever done to you, Alex? Terrible playing it. I seem to have played all of that a bit behind, haven't I? Right, that'll do. let's get you in, you little sucker. Weird. No time. Maybe I have to quantize these things. Let's go for the 8. Yawn. There we go. Hopefully that should work. Why is the sound not as weird? Let's just leave it there. Right. Faffing around. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, and just there. Oh, trackpad very low. Going to go and look for my trackpad lead. Where are we? Oh, all sorts of trouble around here. Right. We might have a trackpad situation going on now. Right, so we are now in a just so you know, we're now in a the type of splurge where I've got very little enthusiasm about what I'm doing at this point. Okay, but I'm going to keep going. So what to notice is how I'm just doing the steps, even though I'm not into it. Yeah, so I'm just moving forwards. I'm not stopping because I'm not into it. Yeah, because one of the things you will notice when you do this is that a good idea doesn't come at the start always. Yeah, sometimes it will just kind of pop out of nowhere. And by trying to make something, every single part good and really be into every single part, you're actually going to be missing, again, the analogy of the mountain lake with the water flowing through. You're being that little naughty beaver who's building the dam and not allowing the water to flow through, which brings the fish, the good ideas, yeah, the salmon, the glistening salmon, yeah. So, we've got a bit of F major going on there, so I wonder. Let's run that up. Crap. Hopefully this doesn't make my computer go bananas. We'll see. It's doing a lot at the moment. My iMac, with all the streaming and everything. Okay, so that's a oh. I'm just going to play something, see what happens. Oh, Michael. Always forget to do that. I don't know if there's a setting to turn off record arm when you move to another track. Anyway. Don't worry, you don't have to stay on the whole stream. The stream will be, I'll be just, exactly. Yeah, I don't think this is going to last a very long time because this particular splurge is, one of them. So yeah, it won't be much longer. I'll just probably put in this pad part and then call it a day. Okay. So let's just do this. So Radical, ex-Radical, is asking me, why don't I use Ableton? Why don't you use Logic? I do use Ableton. I do use Ableton sometimes. I don't only use Logic. The reason I'm using Logic at the moment is... why is it? I don't really know. it doesn't really make much difference. I just don't have a massive like, I've got logic. I only use logic. Ableton's only is Ableton. No, it's like, it's just a tool, right? I guess I used Logic. Why did I start using Logic? I think it was because I had it. It was there. I think I'd already bought it for some reason. I think that's right. What it was because I stopped making music for 8 years. And at the end of making music for 8 years, at the end of my last music career. So I made music for 17 years every day, and I started on Cube. No, actually, I started not even on a computer. It was on a MMT8 Alesis little. Like, it had literally the size of the screen it had to do your arrangements on. It was that big. It was like a watch screen, but not even like that. It was like a digital watch screen. And then we started making music on Cubase on an old Mac. And then I think I moved to Logic when it was still eMagic. I think it was eMagic, was it? I can't remember. It was before Apple bought it. Then I moved to Logic. And then Ableton started up as a company, and it was really, really like, I mean, it was great. There were certain things we were doing that were great, but it sounded terrible at first. And then it got really good. And then what I started doing was using both Ableton and Logic at the same time. So rewiring them together. And that's where I'd got to by the time I'd finished sort of gave up making music for 8 years to build the coaching business. And then in that time, I was obviously making courses, and I was doing coaching, and I was making audios, and I bought Logic in order to do some audio editing, right? So I had it already. And so when I came back to making music, I just wanted to start it as quickly as possible. So I had a piano that we'd been hiring. It was like a Roland a digital piano, so that the boys could learn, or some of the boys could learn the piano with a teacher. So we had one of those. So I just used the USB for that and started playing that, and I just used Logic at first, and that's why I'm using Logic. But I don't think there's any, at the end of the day, they're just tools. I don't think there's a bet. It's just, I mean, it kind of can be what you prefer. At the end of the day, I much prefer focusing on this tool than the tools in there. I think, and yes, you do tend to do different things in Logic than Ableton, and it has a slightly different approach, but you can kind of do anything with anything. So So yeah, people are saying that Ableton's faster. Yeah, I mean, it depends, doesn't it? Not necessarily. I mean, it can be faster for certain. I mean, like, I just think, like, in general, I've worked with a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. Okay, in general, let go of the idea that this is this and that is that. That's not true. It depends how you use it. You're watching me do a live stream where I'm talking to you at the same time as doing this, so you don't know you don't know how fast Logic is. And I'm not saying I'm like mega fast or anything, but it's like and it doesn't necessarily mean Ableton is great. Like, I've got nothing against Ableton. In fact, for people who are starting, occasionally I get people who are starting making music and they say, what should I get? And I always recommend Ableton. So I do actually recommend Ableton as a starting point. But if you're really, really comfortable in Logic and you're really, really good in Logic, then it can be as fast as anything else. That Ableton isn't faster. It is you who is faster or slower, right? So, I don't understand this kind of. It's almost like people get tribal about gear and equipment, and I'm like, seriously? So it's not like, let's not do that. There's enough things to be tribal about already. So okay, so there we are. So there we go. expecting that. Yeah, so what is that chord? It's a fruity. Okay. Right. So how I think about gear in general is that it's a tool, yeah, whether it be a DAW or a synth or a bit of hardware or whatever. And obviously they do kind of suggest a certain way of working, and definitely they get different results, right? But I mean, certainly in terms of things like DAWs, yeah, they're so kind of open. There's so many different things that you can do in them that they don't. So, for instance, a DFAM has a very particular kind of sound to it. That's not true of a DAW. So really, it's just what you prefer and what you've got used to. And often, what you prefer is just what you've got used to, right? So, I do use Ableton. In fact, I am using Ableton for a particular thing I'm doing with the DFAM, because it's you can sync with MIDI clock. But I don't hate Logic because I'm using Ableton, or I don't think that Ableton is better than Logic. It's just different, and it's just whatever you want to use. So yeah, that's how I see it anyway. So I think obsessing about it, one danger with obsessing about and being tribal about gear and software, and this is better than that, and it's like it distracts you from the actual tool that you're really using, which is this. Yeah, that saying, a bad workman blames his tools. Well, I think a bad workman also obsesses about his tools. Is that right? Did I do that right there? No, I didn't. Hang on, what am I doing? Yeah. There we go. DAW don't matter. What was it? F major. Right. Yeah, it's like my so I definitely do think a lot. I have thought, when I say thought a lot, I've created a lot in order to get to the point where I'm at I've thought a lot about my setup. I've made a lot of music in order to get to the point where I'm at a particular setup. So there is intention there. But I've tried quite a few things to get there, and it's not that I think that anything that I've rejected is bad or that it's worse. It's that it's maybe okay. So how I think about gear is that what you're doing is you're creating conditions for music to come out. Yeah, and my whole thing, a bit kind of overarching message that I'm doing my best to put out there is that the more that you can almost leave intention behind when you're at the cutting edge, when you're actually in the music making process, the better. Yeah, because then when you're out of the process, that you can think about it and you can listen to it from a much more objective and therefore kind of realistic in a sense. I mean, you're not totally objective, of course, a realistic view on what you're doing. So absolutely the tools are important, but why I've chosen these bits and rejected others aren't, it's nothing to do with them being better or worse in general. It's because they give certain results which I'm kind of enjoying, or I'm enjoying something about them. So with this thing, the DFAM, it's very inspiring and it's very easy to use, and it's just cool. I just love it, and it kind of creates crazy sounds as well. The reason that I'm using a piano in most of my stuff is just because I've just decided to. Yeah, that's not because a piano is better than, I was about to say a harpsichord, but I think probably it is. but no, it's not because a piano is per se better than something else. It's just because I've kind of chosen to do that. So it's like, you see these forums where people are arguing about what's best, and I'm like, well, for one thing, stop arguing on a forum and go and make some music, right? Because you're wasting your time. And what's, in terms of gear, you don't know what that other person is going for. You don't know what they're trying to do. You don't know what their skills are. You don't know where they've come from. So it's not one thing isn't better than another. So I try not to, before I try something out, kind of obsess about getting the best thing, because pretty much everything that you can get is way, way better than it has ever been in terms of gear. And, once you have it, it's kind of on you to be able to use that tool. And I think, obsessing about tools is just a massive distraction, and it can start to look like procrastination. I mean, not even start to look like procrastination. It is procrastination. It's a way of pretending that you are a music producer and making music without making music. Yeah? So that's my 2 cents. So there we go. One terrible splurge, as far as I know. I mean, who knows? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to call a halt to this live stream. Are there any questions? So Christoph says, but Mike, we see you struggle. Trust me, I would struggle in Ableton too. I mean, struggle is a feature of the creative process. Yeah. I would struggle no matter what. The idea of the creative process isn't to remove, the idea of the creative process isn't to remove struggle, it's to proceed forward in the face of struggle. The idea of the creative process isn't to remove uncertainty, it's to accept that uncertainty, we don't know if this is going to turn into a good tune or not at this point, or in fact at any point. Even when we finish it and release it, we don't know whether in 10 years time we're going to think it's a good tune or a bad tune. So we are living with this massive uncertainty. So the point of the creative process is to become okay with uncertainty. The point of the creative process for me is to recognize that struggle is an inherent part of it. And yes, of course, I do things in order to lower the amount that I struggle. But when the struggle comes, I don't worry about it. I mean, one of the reasons that I struggle is because I don't spend an enormous amount of time learning the gear. I just use it. Yeah. And I've been making music again after my 8-year break. When did I say it was? June 2018. And so I don't, I haven't like done any tutorials, I haven't done any courses on the new, the Logic Pro and all of the changes. And I'm not really that focused on it because I just make music, and it's like I don't want to be. My goal isn't to be an expert at Logic, although that could help. My goal is to be an expert music maker. Yeah, my goal. It's again, yes, I probably go too far down the line of just not focusing on how my kind of how fast I am at things and everything. I totally get that, but whenever I try to focus on learning the tools in a kind of learning type way rather than a doing type way, I just get really impatient and just like I just want to make it, and that's just how I kind of am. That me struggling isn't a function of Logic or Ableton. It's a function of how I am as a person. I just go. I'm like go. So that's why it's not anything to do with the tools. It's me. So assets, Manuel. You've just arrived, and I'm just about to go. So I'm going to go upstairs and say hello, say good morning to my beautiful little boys who are not murdering each other at this particular moment in time, so it's absolutely fantastic. I will be back tomorrow, an hour and a half before now. Okay? Please come back. Please join me. Please, it's great to see people commenting and having these discussions about tools and everything, and about pineapple-flavoured Behringer synths, and for us to shoot the beep about various different things, naughty beavers, glistening fish, all of that. You're going to get that here on the Idea Explosion Challenge live streams, and you're going to get to feel so much better about how terrible your splurges are because you're going to see how terrible mine are. Okay, so please come back, tell your friends about it, click the like, all that jazz, set the reminder. I don't understand how all of this newfangled technology works, but anyway, do whatever you need to do to make sure you are back here tomorrow, and I will see you very soon. I'm going to leave it there, and I don't know how to finish this. I know what to say. Onwards and upwards. There we go.